Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, and all the compassionate and generous philanthropists of our wonderful island city who are present here today. Good morning! Today is an exceptionally auspicious and wonderful day. Our Love Foundation is honored to invite a guest from the world's largest Buddhist academy, Khenpo Sodargye, La Hongga Buddhist Academy, to deliver a charity lecture for us on the theme, Love Unites Us for Goodness. Khenpo Sodargye has a compassionate and benevolent heart. He has translated scriptures and taught Han Chinese monastics. He is a prolific author, skillfully explaining the Dharma and guiding countless people. He donated to education and aided disaster areas. He works tirelessly to help those in need, offering charity and assistance to the vulnerable. He has traveled to many countries like Europe, America, and Southeast Asia to spread Dharma and give lectures. He has worked with Peking, Tsinghua, and Renmin University. Students from Zhejiang University, Fudan University, and other universities gathered to helping university students explore the source of wisdom and nurturing the blossoms of their hearts. He has had a truly tremendous impact both at home and abroad. In 2006, the Khenpo Sodargye began using technology like online videos to share the Dharma Reign for All, benefiting those with affinity. He also initiated the Start with Love campaign, encouraging everyone to contribute a bit of love to society and to care for and support those around them who are in need. The Khenpo also led by example, first establishing the Wisdom and Compassion School, the Novice Monk School, and a nursing home, including Shangluokima Primary School, Nima Township Primary School. In recent years, the Khenpo has devoted his life savings and with the help of charitable and compassionate people from all walks of society, invested over 35 million yuan to build Shangluokima Middle School. Let 1,000 primary school graduates' children won't face unemployment upon finishing primary school, because in Luo County at that time there were only primary schools and no middle schools. The words that the Khenpo most often teaches us are just two. Benefit others. To benefit others means to bring benefit and help to others. To be honest, he always says, I don't know how long I will live, but as long as I have a breath left, even if it is just for one person, I will find a way to inspire a kind heart in them. Even if it takes hundreds or millions of lifetimes, I would be willing to be their servant. Every time I think of these words, I am deeply, deeply moved. Khenpo is like a bright lamp, illuminating and inspiring our path to a happy life. Today, I hope everyone can set aside your afflictive and relaxed body and mind and listen to teachings of the Master with a heart full of gratitude. Thank you all. The organizer of today's charity talk is the renowned charity team from our city, Love Foundation. Next, let us give applause to welcome the president of the Love Foundation to the stage to deliver a speech. Thank you.
Respected Khenpo Sodargye Rinpoche, dear compassionate and loving friends, today, with a heart full of genuine reverence and excitement, I welcome all of you here to listen together to the voice of wisdom from Khenpo Sodargye. Khenpo Sodargye is renowned nationwide and worldwide, a beloved and respected Buddhist scholar and philanthropist. His vast, unwavering, and boundless compassion and his truly enlightening wisdom have so profoundly and deeply touched each and every truly fortunate follower. Today, we are fortunate to listen to his teachings in person, which is a truly tremendous honor and a wonderful blessing. Qingdao Charity Love Fund is a grassroots organization that supports education and teaching, upholding the philosophy and mission of dignified charity, passing on love, always created and implemented I Love Book Corner and Love Lunch, as well as loving teaching assistance, among others. In past 7 years, raised over 20 million yuan in donations, benefiting over 10,000 dedicated and hardworking teachers and students. Today, Love Foundation aids Khenpo Sodargye Rinpoche in organizing such a grand event. This will have an important impact on the Love Foundation. It means that in the future, more forces will join in loving dedication to supporting education. On behalf of the Love Foundation and the many teachers and students who have been helped, to Master Khenpo Sodargye and everyone present here, express deep and sincere gratitude and respect. And on behalf of the Love Foundation, I would like to make a generous donation of 1 million yuan to Shangluokima School in Ganzi, Sichuan province to support their educational mission. I have faith in Khenpo Sodargye Rinpoche's altruism. Truly believe it and really benefit a lot. Over the years, I have clearly felt that the donations I made or good deeds I have done always come back to me with simply even greater rewards. This has filled me with a pleasant surprise and inspired me to continue giving and helping others. Words cannot express what I feel in my heart and ultimately turn into a sincere wish. I wish that everyone present here, through the teachings of our Master, may realize the true meaning of life and gain insight into it. Thank you all.
Thank you, President Chen. Give a warm round of applause to Khenpo Sodargye. Come and give a charity speech for everyone. Thank you.
Respected President Chen, respected philanthropists and compassionate friends, and esteemed supporters, it is with great pleasure and heartfelt happiness that I am very happy to share the joy of charity with everyone here today. I sincerely believe that each and every one of you, dear friends, present here today, truly possesses Buddha nature, and that each of us forms virtuous connections through love, while also benefiting all beings with love, creating a harmonious circle of compassion that spreads kindness and wisdom throughout the world. Well, with so many of us here, in fact, you may not always notice it, but there is a gentle, small river of compassion quietly flowing in each and every one of our hearts. This little river flows on ceaselessly, eventually merging into the vast ocean. Ultimately, it becomes an ocean of love, vast and endless. Among our society, we will know that there are so many truly impoverished and struggling people out there, all in desperate need of genuine help. Elderly living alone, people with disabilities, children unable to attend school, as well as those suffering from various illnesses, including those among us who struggle with conditions such as autism or even depression, and also people living with AIDS, as well as so many other individuals, all in need of help. I truly believe that many of us rely on a kind of love power, a unique and special kind of love effect, a gentle force that quietly shapes our lives. Their life circumstances, in a significant and meaningful way, can indeed be transformed gradually over time. These sentient beings will eventually come to experience and truly embrace genuine happiness in their lives. When it comes to knowledge about love, in fact, we Chinese have a rich cultural heritage and profound wisdom. Whether young, middle-aged, or elderly, Chinese people all pay close attention to this topic. Love can be expressed in many different forms and ways, and everyone, in their own unique and individual manner, has their own way of thinking about and understanding it. Among other ethnic groups and in other countries, there are also a wide variety of different approaches and thoughtful explorations that people may experience and consider when it comes to love, each offering its own unique perspective. I remember that actually just a few years ago, there was quite interestingly a survey conducted in Japan. During the course of the survey, it was discovered that among the thousands of unique Chinese characters that exist, one of the most meaningful and cherished is the character that represents love. The majority of people tend to have a strong preference for the word love, and most of people love these characters. And this word of love has received a total of 85,000 votes. There may be many different ways to understand love in this world, after all, but we firmly believe that in the fast-paced and ever-changing society that we live in today, what we need is a kind of unconditional love, a giving and dedication free from selfishness and self-interest, an altruistic and pure form of love like this, truly selfless. Everyone present here today also advocates for a loving heart, encouraging us to treat others with kindness and respect. And we are coming together and collaborating with others toward this shared goal is not only important, but it also brings a deep sense of fulfillment and purpose. When it comes to charity, we all have this feeling deep inside, a sense that we want to help to make a difference. charity is very important, but I believe that charity must be carried out with careful wisdom and thoughtful consideration as an essential prerequisite. Because without wisdom, if we blindly engage in charity, it is very likely that at a certain point, our charitable activities may come to a halt or experience a break. This is possible. It's just like animal release, really. Releasing animals is a very good thing, but if someone acts improperly, ignores lives, or neglects environmental protection, and does not take into account the relevant national laws, as is often necessary, and just randomly buys some living creatures and then releases them indiscriminately into the natural environment, the result is condemnation from various media outlets, and it has a negative impact on the local people. In this way, although animal release is originally a very good thing, after being reported by widely recognized major media outlets, many people develop an aversion to animal release in their hearts, and there are even, in fact, many different misunderstandings about it. In the same way, when we do many things in this world, each and every day, there are actually both negative as well as positive consequences and effects in reality. But in this era of information overload that we all experience, positive impacts, however, may not always be widely or extensively reported. For those of us engaged in charity work, even if we have been doing charity for many years, we know that the effects and influence on society are good. In the end, the news we receive may not be the positive. Perhaps a few individuals, a tiny minority, or even just a tiny, seemingly insignificant piece of news that might otherwise go unnoticed can ultimately end up tarnishing the reputation of all truly good deeds. This is the reality of our times that we live in. For example, people in our Tibetan Buddhism community, perhaps in the Han regions, let's put it this way. For example, among many devoted and faithful religious followers, including some especially dedicated and passionate devotees who are deeply committed, their wisdom has increased, their compassion has grown, and their faith has been continuously strengthened, all of which have played a significant role. However, it is very possible that the improper actions of a very small number of individuals, once exploited by various media outlets, can end up affecting everyone in this area in one way or another. Some time ago, as you might imagine, a reporter asked me, now, some media outlets are saying that there is a street in Beijing specifically called Tuku Street, and that there are 300,000 fake living Buddhas there. As a Tibetan Buddhist, how do you view this? If you don't mind sharing. At the time, I said, I do not agree with this kind of media statement. Because on a street in Beijing, we do not say 300,000. Even 30,000 people, even if they were from other ethnic groups, it would probably be very difficult to get the proper paperwork. However, I do believe that the improper actions of a few individuals, once the media gets involved, they inflate things. You could say they add fuel to the fire. Then, for the entire and complete whole process of can also, in some cases, have a certain impact on our charitable work. In the past, the Go Mei Mei incident in the charity world, many people asked me about it, and some reporters did as well. You have worked in charity for years. How do you view this incident? Actually, I think in certain cases, her actions were simply personal and do not necessarily represent a whole group. But sometimes the actions of one person end up representing the whole. Or in situations like this, those of us involved in charity find ourselves in an awkward position. Sometimes we can't even operate for a long period of time simply because of it. So the first point I want to express to everyone today is this. Doing charity is a very good thing, an excellent thing indeed, truly. But we must act with wisdom, making thoughtful, careful decisions as we move forward. So what does this wisdom mean? It means how we use charitable funds in real situations, including transparency of those funds. and its legalization, standardization, and professionalization. In these aspects, we must be very rational, orderly, and effective to the progress of our charity work. That's important. We need to carry out our work in a very reasonable and thoughtful way, carefully. Otherwise, when it comes to charity work, if a loophole is found somewhere, it is very likely to be exploited by others. Therefore, no matter who is doing charity, regardless of their background or status, we must do our very best to ensure that everything is completely legal and thoroughly professional. In our environment, doing things completely legally is quite challenging. I've mentioned this before in different settings as well. Right now, we don't actually have a genuine charity law in place. Relevant laws and regulations are also not clear at this time. If we were to completely follow the Western concept of charity, it might not fit our national circumstances or our traditional culture, not to mention their legal awareness and so on. So we can't just apply their model wholesale. As things stand now, the United States does charity quite well, and you could say their system is relatively mature. But among them, as I have carefully studied before, they do have certain methods. Indeed, it is a bit hard to use their system directly because much of their charity is, to a certain extent, also somewhat passive in nature, that is, not especially active. They have things like estate taxes, and also let me wipe my sweat. You are all just so really happy, aren't you? I think that quite a lot of American charity, in my opinion, for example, the Rockefeller family, the inheritance they left behind at the time, basically more than 70% would essentially be taken by the government authorities. And then on top of that, there's personal income tax. When you add all that up, when someone typically wants to leave their assets to their children or their loved ones, for most people, even now, more than 40 or 50% is all taken by the government. In this situation, many wealthy people, when faced with such circumstances, think instead of letting the government take it, it's better to do some charity first. And the US government previously didn't want to be like the European countries at all, where every family becomes wealthy, which ultimately poses certain economic harm to their own regime and government. So, as a result, they promoted charity on a national scale. Regarding legal awareness, it's really quite different from many other places. This practice of collecting inheritance tax in many countries, like in Singapore and other countries, is exempt. They don't do this. So in this situation, many people nowadays, when it comes to so-called charity, many people think that is only for the rich. For those who can't spend all their money, they can do charity. Others don't have to give charity. This is the kind of thinking some people have. That's why we've said before, charity is about the heart. Each of us should have a charitable heart. This is extremely important because charity, after all, is an actionate, is a kind of spiritual practice. So first of all, what I want to say is when we find ourselves participating in charity work or engaging in acts of kindness, we must treat it as something very rational and long-term, which means making decisions thoughtfully and always planning ahead with care. We need to approach it carefully and with a thoughtful long-term perspective. Some people are very enthusiastic at first and really want to do good deeds, but after 2 or 3 years or 5 or 6 years, they immediately quit. They no longer have the initial enthusiasm. So I think that sometimes when we do charity work, just the time involved in this process is, in most cases, at least 5 years, sometimes 10, or even as long as 20 years. Since you want to do this, you can't achieve much in just 1 or 2 years. It's best to make this kind of commitment. Personally, I used to want to do translation work, and I thought it would take at least 10 years. Later, I wanted to give lectures at universities. 1 or 2 years in university is not enough. I had to make a 5-year plan. Then, when it came to doing charity work, around 2006, I wanted to do charity work. if I really want to do charity, I should at least make a 10-year commitment in the course of a single lifetime. There are, in all likelihood, probably only a few rare 10-year periods. In the first 2 decades, honestly, we really can't actually accomplish very much at all. Before the age of 20, when it comes to charity work, we probably don't have the idea, the ability, or the right circumstances. And then if I can actually live to 80 or even 90 years old, then in those last 20 years, I probably won't be able to do much either. Most people, when they're 70 or 80 years old, it's very difficult to accomplish things at that age. So it's those few decades in the middle, or maybe 2 decades, maybe 3 decades, that I really do need to make use of this middle period, my age, circumstances, and all aspects, including wealth and status. Status is important. Status within the family and status in all other aspects. Generally, the period when people typically have status is best between the ages of 30 and 60. Up to 60, if you don't have authority at home, many people lose their power as early as 50. A lot of my classmates now have no authority at home. Their power has already, in fact, been taken away by their own children. They truly have no real authority left at all. When you have no authority, it's also hard to have financial power. So sometimes doing charity requires authority. You need authority in the family or personal authority. There are many different kinds of power. We should really use this power to do charity. At this time, this is actually really we are now in what could be called a time of crisis, a spiritual crisis, an economic crisis. But some people believe the most dangerous times are also the times with the most opportunity. The word crisis in life, as we often find, it actually signifies an opportunity, a chance for change. If in our lives we feel that doing charity is very difficult, but later on there are many chances arise. And when those opportunities come, it doesn't mean you have to do something big. I see that here you have so very many different names, for example, such as Love Fund, Dust, and even the red characters are very large. And there are words, for example, like Little Grass, as well as others, and so on, among many more. It's necessary to do things step by step to avoid mistakes and ensure everything is done correctly. In the past, when I did charity, many people were against it too. They said there are so many poor people worldwide, many people in need, many children out of school. You can't finish helping them all. I thought the more you do, the harder it gets, and the more there is to do. It seemed a bit difficult. What should I do? Later I saw a story. Well, maybe it is true, or maybe it is not. But regardless, it was honestly very inspiring to me. I've also shared this story at other charity events where I was able to connect with people who are passionate about it. In the calm and peaceful morning, when the tide goes out at the seaside, many tiny small fish are washed onto the beach and left stranded by the waves. When the gentle tide slowly recedes and the warm sunlight softly shines down, a lot of those small, delicate little fish, they end up drying up slowly and eventually die there in that very spot. At that moment, there was a child who was desperately throwing the little fish back into the water one by one. Someone else tried to persuade him, saying, "Don't bother throwing them back. Look, there are so many small fish all over the beach. If you throw them back one by one, you'll never actually finish. Who really cares?" This child does not care about what he said. He kept throwing each little fish back into the water while saying, "It matters to this one. It matters to this one." He kept throwing the small little fish back into the water one by one. Actually, doing charity is just like this. No matter how much you really truly do in a year or in 5 years, it counts every bit of what you do. In this process, I think we shouldn't have our own personal, financial, or political motives. All kinds of personal reputation, including what we commonly call the 8 worldly concerns, using them to simply promote oneself. This is unnecessary. This is not a kind heart. That is what you could call, in a sense, a kind of truly intentional and thoughtful packaging. Right now, many people in the charity sector are truly outstanding, and they did a really good job. There are also some people who put on a show under the guise of charity too. It is not from bottom of their heart. For example, someone who used to be a really bad person in the past then tries to completely cleanse themselves of their sins. Some do it for repentance. Some individuals sometimes want to change the public's overall impression of them in society. Even among people who have broken the law, we often see this as well. They do charity work for a time, but in reality, they're not very sincere. They have ulterior motives. I don't think these are very good. If there are no other motives and it's truly sincere, even if it's just a student helping someone out, then that's a very meaningful thing. You know, when I first started, one day I received a letter from a student. Actually, for me, I have to say that was a really significant push. It truly was, honestly, because it had already been several months since she sent me that letter. A stranger hadn't passed the letter on to me. Later, I found a letter quietly waiting in the crack of my door. On the outside, it was wrapped with a khata. Then I opened it and saw, and it turned out a long time had already passed. The entire first semester had already gone by. She really wanted to study, but didn't have the money. Later, after I finally saw the letter, I noticed that she had, to my surprise, left her neighbor's landline number because her family simply didn't have a mobile phone, just the neighbor's landline. So I contacted the child through the neighbor's landline. This person later went on to attend university. Some time ago, she actually started working as a doctor. In fact, you know, she was even holding a child and said, "This is my child." I said, "Wow, you found a job in such a short time, so quickly. And now you already have a brand new life. Isn't that truly wonderful? Absolutely incredible?" Sometimes while we're doing these things, 5 years pass without us noticing. 6 or 7 years go by before we realize it. Many of you who do charity work probably feel the same way. In this situation, I personally and honestly believe that all of us here, in the process of doing these things, should keep our minds pure and our actions pure. Moreover, our approaches should be as rational and professional as possible. In this way, the things we simply do will gradually gain recognition from society. Even if society does not recognize us, we should still be able to honestly and fully, to our own conscience completely, in every possible way. This is extremely important. In fact, I have always believed that doing charity is a form of spiritual practice. Some of us think that doing charity in this way might affect our own spiritual practice and realization, and it may have some impact on our time, perhaps, and in other aspects as well. But the true meaning of it is that as long as it genuinely benefits others, even in the slightest way possible, what matters the most. I once read a truly memorable story that I still remember about a practitioner who really wanted to live in a cave, but at that time there was no cave available. So he relied on his own efforts to dig out this cave all by himself. He worked extremely hard and spent a long time and finally managed to dig out a cave. Just as he was about to move in, he suddenly saw an old man. The old man said, "Could you let me live here? My health is truly failing me now. I don't have much time left. I want to practice here. Could you please give this cave to me?" So the man gave the cave to the old man so he could practice there for his own use. Later, wanting to personally practice himself, he dug another cave. As a result, another old man came and he gave the cave to him as well. Eventually, with time, he grew old and his health steadily deteriorated further. He wanted his own cave. Then dig a hole for yourself and practice well. After he finally finished digging the cave at last, there is a young man came, and this young man said to him, "Old man, you don't have much time left. Even if you practice here now, you might not succeed. So could you let me practice here instead?" In the end, this kind-hearted and generous man gave the cave to him, but he couldn't dig another one because his body was simply no longer up to it. At this point, he felt much pain on one hand. On the one hand, I honestly feel that these are, without a doubt, the most important holes in my own personal life. It's very important to me, but I gave them all away to others, every single one. Even though I really don't have a suitable place to practice by myself at the moment, to be honest, it's still okay. Then, perhaps later on, We say that it is the blessing of the three jewels or the response of heaven and earth. In the end, a deity appeared before him once again and told him, "Your practice has now reached completion." At that moment, he truly attained enlightenment. Sometimes this altruistic intention can truly be seen in our own everyday actions, choices, and decisions. You might not have that much time to practice for yourself. But if you often act for the sake of all beings and often act in ways that are completely free from any hint or trace of selfish cunning, always behaving with genuine good heart, if you keep making efforts to act in this way, then at a certain point, what we call bodhicitta, the mind of benefiting others, will naturally arise within you. When you truly give rise to bodhicitta, then whether it's attainment or the state of your practice, these things are not far away from you at all. At that time, all happiness and joy will come flooding in, filling your heart completely and bringing peace, and it's easily within your grasp, very effortlessly. The renowned Shantideva, he also said this in the treatise on the way of the Bodhisattva. It is said that all the happiness in the world arises from benefiting others. All the happiness in the world is generated by benefiting others. As it is said, all the suffering in the world inevitably and ultimately originates from self-interest. All the pain in the world is in fact actually brought about by selfishness and self-interest. Everyone here knows very well that we shed many tears and many scars that comes from our suffering are all caused by being overly selfish and self-interested. Therefore, when we do charity, it is actually a kind of true enjoyment. I think it is really a kind of happiness. This happiness is rooted in each of our lives, quietly growing within us and shaping our experiences. It is a gentle presence. And even in the education and learning that we receive and experience from a very young age throughout our early years, this is absolutely and extremely important. Our loving hearts must be accompanied by education. We should have this kind of understanding. Education is very important. I often think this way. When we do charity for others, in the meanwhile, we must also deliberately and consistently promote wisdom in all that we do and incorporate it into our daily lives. What does this mean? For example, when we want to help some impoverished students, we shouldn't just provide them with financial support, but also spiritual support. In Buddhism, there is the concept often referred to as of material and Dharma generosity. If we only help them through material generosity, that's not enough. We should truly find ways to help this person become a good person and to become a kind person, someone who knows gratitude and repays kindness. Much of our wealth comes from humanity, and as a result, it ought to be returned to humanity itself for the benefit of all. In other words, many entrepreneurs and wealthy people in particular, quite often, actually, many of us should, for a moment, reflect on this. When you leave this world, none of these things can be taken with you, not even a single cent. When you came to this world, your soul only carried the good and bad karma from your previous life. When you leave, let alone your vast wealth, even our most precious body of flesh and blood, none of that can be taken with you. It all stays in the funeral home. You leave this world with nothing, completely bare. At that moment, what truly follows you in your mind stream, which is the good karma that you have done, the karma you have created, it's as if it transforms into a kind of card you can actually take with you. Let's say it in this way. You could put it that way, I suppose. If all you have is RMB, US dollars, or euros, none of that can be taken with you into your next life. But if you turn it into a force for good, a kind of savings card, like for good deeds, and it can simply be stored in your alaya consciousness. In your next life, it will manifest as your wealth and wisdom. So I think that whenever we engage in any charitable act, we are not just simply donating money to others. Whether I am in Tibet or in Han regions, no matter where I am, when we do charity work together, when we provide someone with financial assistance, for example, there should also be a condition attached. What condition that it attached? It is that you must practice virtuous deeds and have a heart of gratitude within your heart. When you have the ability and the wisdom, perhaps eventually in the future, you should also engage in charity in the same way. In this way, our entire society as a whole will gradually become a truly virtuous, positive, and harmonious cycle by passing the precious baton of love and compassion from one generation to the next. Otherwise, we are merely making a gesture without real impact or consequence in the end, after all. And a financial gesture alone is not enough as well. When we perform life release, we are practicing the giving of fearlessness, which is carefully saving the precious, innocent lives from the butcher's knife and compassionately protecting them from harm. But at the same time, we also give a gift of Dharma. We recite mantras, offer nectar, and bless it with scripture cases. This is the most important kind of power for it, truly. In the same way, for example, in any situation, a person doing charity must have a healthy body and mind. One's body and mind should be cultivated. At the same time, for those individuals you are currently helping who are in need, we should always do our utmost to patiently and lovingly educate them with love. In fact, education in love is extremely important. For example, after World War II, the Germans, as a nation, they received a very significant and profound lesson, which is a valuable lessons to be learned from Hitler's violent spirit. Since then, they have believed that in schools, children with violent tendencies should not be the focus of cultivation. In their schools, there is special education in kindness for animal care. As this education in kindness is promoted, whether it's parents, teachers, or relevant school staff, if they notice that certain children are frequently abusing animals or utilize physical force or violence to beat them in a violent manner or do similar things, they will impose appropriate punishments on them in such cases and may even give them stern criticism, among other measures. So I think that when we engage in charity, even in our daily lives, every day, it's an act of kindness. And this kindness, as everyone certainly knows, of course, in Buddhism, is actually a specialized term. In fact, in China, Buddhism is especially suitable to be the state religion. When I often look back at history, for example, during the Tang Dynasty, all the people, including everyone in the imperial palace, how did they flourish? More than approximately 90% of the population were Buddhists. Then, moving on to the Song Dynasty, for a period during the Song, there were significantly, relatively more followers of Taoism. It is particularly interesting that during the Ming Dynasty, many emperors were practicing Buddhists as well. And next we know that, especially during the Yuan Dynasty, Buddhism basically became the state religion. Then during the Qing Dynasty as well, emperors like Qianlong and Kangxi, at that time, Buddhism has become the mainstream spirit and ideology of the entire nation throughout history in the course of its development. And so it was only during a relatively short period, a span of just a few decades, which was a brief period in the grand scheme of things, that our traditional culture, along with Confucianism, Taoism, and Buddhism, suffered a severe damage. Now, in the minds of many young people, it seems as if Buddhism is some kind of superstition or perhaps an extreme religion. There are doubts in this regard. But their idea and views will gradually change over time. In this context, when it comes to doing charity, for example, whether it's kindness, love, or compassion, all of these terms actually originate from Buddhism. For many of us, these are very familiar concepts. Unlike other countries, other nations must explain. For example, goodness. What's goodness? They have to spend a long time explaining it. The same goes for love. They also need to explain it at length. And for compassion, they must do the same. But that's not needed. Many of the terms we use today actually come from Buddhism, including concepts like so-called afflictions, Buddha nature, and so on. Given this, I think for many of us, doing good deeds is actually not really very difficult. So in the process of performing good deeds, whether for others or for the community in our daily lives, it's not as smooth as doing bad deeds by any means. Whether it's on an individual level or a collective one, there are many difficulties and numerous obstacles. But a wise person should be very resilient, which means they are able to recover from difficulties and adapt to new situations. They won't get discouraged or give up easily just because they encounter an unexpected setback or some pain, even if it happens once or twice. Upon feeling incredibly disappointed, and then ultimately dying. I think that's impossible. In fact, whatever you do anything, there will always be at least some struggle and hardship involved. This is a natural phenomenon, and it is also a fundamental natural law. Perhaps we have not yet fully and completely understood the true essence or the most fundamental nature of this natural law at its very core, suggesting that its deeper meaning still eludes us. But if you really come to understand it, you'll find that it's actually not that difficult. It's just that we simply see it as a certain way of doing things. For example, Edison often failed many times during his long and challenging process of invention. Once, someone asked him, "Don't you feel upset after 10,000 times failures?" He said, "Actually, I haven't failed. It's just that I've conducted 10,000 experiments. Each time I tried a different approach, I adjusted my methods. That's it." Many people think if they don't succeed at something, they've already failed. But this so-called failure just means that this particular approach didn't work during the process. It simply prompts you to try in a different way. That's how I think it. People today, now more than ever, need to have a strong willpower. Having strong willpower is easy to talk about in words. But in reality, how do we actually do it? We need to keep conducting various tests consistently. For example, when you're engaged in charity work. As you move forward, you might indeed find yourself unexpectedly encountering some difficulties or obstacles. At that particular point, I try a different approach. Often when I'm usually doing good, helpful, thoughtful, generous, and kind deeds for others, one method might not work so well, and I run into some obstacles. But then I switch to another way. For instance, when we're giving a speech at an event, if it feels like the atmosphere here isn't very good, or if I run into some issues, I try another approach to see how things go in this setting. If this environment doesn't seem quite right, then I narrow down the speech to just 20 people and see how that works. If that doesn't work, then I try it with just about 10 people and see how it goes, you know? There's so many different, unique, and various ways in life that people can take, each leading to its own path. Sometimes, no matter what, especially when doing good deeds, we still encounter obstacles. But this time we will simply we use a variety of different approaches to adjust and adapt our own methods in a wide range of situations. There was a time when the scientist Stephen Hawking, at a scientific and technological exchange conference, as the event was coming to an end, a reporter asked him a question, which is, do you feel that as a scientist, personally, you have had especially bad luck in life? You are always confined to this wheelchair at all times. Do you sometimes feel that it's a bit unfair? Have you ever, even just once, felt that way before? Then he was smiling. He carefully and deliberately adjusted the display settings on his computer screen, taking his time to ensure that his keyboard was clearly and fully shown. And what did he say? He said, "I still consider myself indeed to be very, very fortunate. My hands, though weary, are still able to move. And my mind, even now, despite everything, is still able to think. I still have so much love in this world, and I still have a heart full of gratitude." So for scientists like him and others, they also face certain hardships in the world and certain obstacles in life, but in a slightly different way. Some of us might think, if we were Hawking, although he was satisfied with scientific ideas, we might still feel that we are forever stuck there, confined to a wheelchair. We might feel sad about it, but they have their own way of dealing with it in their own unique manner. So I think that many of us who do charity work, during the process, you will encounter various situations with different circumstances that you'll need to handle as they occur. Maybe we will be criticized and harshly judged by others, and with people saying, "You're not doing charity out of goodwill. You have some ulterior motive. I can sense it." Maybe even the relevant authorities above, in fact, don't understand as well. And think that in the process of doing good deeds, there are some very serious illegal phenomena and criminal activities clearly involved. Sometimes, even when we are truly helping others, the people that we helped before, in some cases, there are some, not only a lack of gratitude, but even a very real sense of ingratitude indeed. Or there may be other forms of response. But at such times, we should all try our best, as much as we possibly can, to strive to always respond thoughtfully with a broad, open mind and a genuinely kind, compassionate heart. I remember that Balzac once said, "A truly kind heart is much more precious than any other." Having a truly kind heart is the most important thing for us. At the very core of doing charity, we must have a selfless heart, a kind heart. When we think of the suffering of other sentient beings, perhaps the various criticisms, judgments, and negative feedback that we encounter, that we meet, and the hardships you endure while doing good deeds, all the difficulties and hardships you go through may actually feel really very worthwhile to you. These things are not really such a big deal for you, not really at all, actually. You may even feel that these things are not worth mentioning at all. So what is my own personal experience and journey if we're doing such things? When comparing doing good deeds or not doing them, it might seem that not doing good deeds is easier and more relaxed for oneself. There's no right or wrong to deal with, and everything seems fine. If you simply don't do anything, others won't bother you either. There won't be any misunderstandings or gossip. Life might sometimes feel more relaxed. But after you've done good deeds for a significant period of time, when you look back on your life, if you hadn't done this, for example, maybe many others wouldn't have done so either. If no one did it, then those people wouldn't have received help. But if you do it, you'll face challenges yourself, you'll make some sacrifices, and you'll encounter some difficulties, but those people in particular will truly get benefit from you. So the value they receive compared to the significant value you give and the pain you have to endure every single day, when you weigh these against each other, sometimes we can feel, even though I myself, during this process, have gone through tremendous hardship, overwhelming exhaustion, and deep lingering pain, and have faced so many different things. And the happiness and satisfy I've gained from it, the success or the benefits, when I balance these two perspectives, when I really compare them, I realize I should do it unconditionally. Whatever I'm able to achieve or accomplish for me, that's enough. That's how I see it. As long as I do my best, and when the time comes to put a period at the end, then that's okay. I don't have any regrets either. Because if at the very beginning I had selfish motives, then if I failed to accomplish something, I would feel very regretful and sad. But I don't have selfish intentions. I just want to make the most of this opportunity to do what I can. Even if, in the end, you don't succeed, I won't really feel that kind of pain myself. So I think many of us here today, I've heard that you are genuinely passionate and wholeheartedly committed to charity. Some people do it on a very large scale because everyone's circumstances are different, may not be able to do it on such a large scale. But as long as each person has this intention in their hearts, it is truly a great mission. Everyone acts by their ability, according to their own wealth, their own good fortune. Do it according to your own wisdom and understanding. Recently, we also established the Viking Fuhui Foundation here, and they are also contributing, also taking action. Actually, I really think for every single group among us regarding to this topic, they all, throughout the entire complex and often arduous process of founding, at every stage, in the process of development, in the process of advancing, will face many different difficulties and challenges as you go along your journey. The original initiators, perhaps midway through, whether their initial motivation and drive can be sustained over time, and when their motivation can no longer continue, when it's time to hand over to a new group, whether this mindset can be passed on, many issues can arise. This isn't just our charity. Many other social activities also encounter this. But I personally and sincerely believe that when it comes to doing good deeds, we should know that we all need to unite together and harness the collective strength of society. If there are possibly any unreasonable or flawed aspects in any respect, everyone should feel free to simply point them out directly. And when there are good suggestions, positive energy, or good deeds, everyone can combine efforts. In this way, we will indeed change our world together for the better, for everyone. We will change our society And even the smallest, most humble group among us can make a difference. Perhaps our foundation can change the life of a single family. In fact, a family is the basic unit of society. Maybe we can change 50 families, 30 families, 20 families, and so on. There are many different situations. But no matter what, its existence is valuable. At this moment, I also hope that many kind-hearted, loving, and charitable people among us will bring out their positive energy and embrace the altruistic spirit Mahayana Buddhism teaches us. But this altruism is not simply just about material support. In fact, we also need to offer spiritual altruism. When spiritual and material altruism combine, there are still many places around us in our communities that need help. This includes students in Tibetan regions, individuals in Tibet who are in need of urgent assistance, as well as those in Yunnan and Guizhou who are also in need. Sometimes we even go further. Like last year, I visited Cambodia and Thailand, and I went to some refugee camps. When I arrived there, I could truly feel it, indeed, that many people living in some of our major big cities now are extremely well off. For us, 1,000 or even 10,000 yuan, which is in your life, is really not a particularly large sum of money, not a very large sum. But for these people as well, it could change their fate forever. So sometimes during our lifetime, we need to know that the act of giving to others is also a form of gain for ourselves. It seems like we are helping others, but in reality, we are helping us. How are we helping ourselves? We are letting go of our arrogance, letting go of our stinginess, letting go of our self-attachment, cultivating compassion, cultivating our wisdom, and cultivating our sense of empathy. These are simply things that every human being essentially needs to do in their lives. Therefore, I especially hope that all the compassionate and kind-hearted people present here today will embrace the world with your love, with open arms, and illuminate this world with your good deeds in your own unique way and inspire others to do the same. If we do this, I believe our world will also become a much better place. I sincerely believe that all of us humans truly enjoy the pure and eternal joy of heaven, that we should know it will happen from our good karma. We enjoy heaven and earth's pleasures, and ultimately we will certainly attain the most supreme bliss. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much for your compassionate teachings, Master. Thank you. Today, you have also blessed us with a happier life. Thank you.